Hey Gearheads, and welcome to GT Garage Talk, a discussion about all things automotive. I am your host, Cory, and on this week's episode, we are talking Pothole season. A season somewhat foreign to me here down in Texas. Sure, we get potholes, but we don't have a whole season around it. So I do have listeners all around the globe, all around the nation, and perhaps this is something that you struggle with or struggle through this dreaded pothole season as the frozen tundra of the world starts melting and thawing and refreezing and thawing and refreezing and thawing. You get the wonderful side effects of terrible rotten roads that eat up wheels and tires. And for this, I reached out to good friend of the show, the Vehicle Nanny, Bill Taylor, so we will have him on. So, Bill, thank you so much for coming back and just maybe having a little bit of a cathartic or a venting experience, get something off your chest, because we may or may not be in what you Michiganders affectionately call pothole season.
Oh, is that what we're going to talk about? I thought we were going to talk about car colors.
Oh, yeah. Well, maybe some other time, because
Okay.
no, I've been seeing too many fun posts from you on social media about the glories and the wonders of potholes in Michigan in late winter, early spring.
Yeah, it's it's like clockwork.
Right.
But it does surprise us because all of a sudden, overnight, boom, there they are.
All right. So you and I live in, for this time of year, two different worlds completely. And you experience weather conditions that 2021 notwithstanding, we don't down here in Texas. So enlighten me to some of the things that change around the cooler months, maybe early to mid fall for you as you get further north. Like what is it like up there in the colder months, Bill?
In the colder months, yeah. Well, so for your listeners, I'm in Metro Detroit.
Okay.
So that's the southeast Michigan. So the lower portion of the lower peninsula.
Okay.
So so a little bit more metropolitan, actually very much metropolitan. But yeah, once fall happens, we really have just two seasons, summer and winter, it seems like, because spring and fall are quick transitions. But, it starts getting colder, and then the white stuff starts to flow. And, there are some winters it's worse than others. And Detroit itself sits on a huge salt mine.
Okay.
And so we love to use salt on our roads to help keep the ice down. Well, salt is highly corrosive, as anybody knows. That's why nobody drives to Michigan to buy a classic car.
Yeah.
Because there's a good chance it's rotted.
I've written many an article about recalls that only affect Salt Belt states. So, yes.
Yeah. But it's amazing I stick around for all that. But,
you're retired now. You could come down to the warmer climates and see the light and brace yourself for heat and humidity.
Yeah. And I've done that in my career, and that's probably where I'll end up. But we've got some family obligations here. But yeah, so anyway, so once the snow flies and all the salt goes on the road and things start to thaw out in the mid-February, early March timeframe, then the roads take a beating. And because of all that salt and snow water getting in under the roads, freezing, thawing, that vicious tortuous cycle just wreaks havoc on the roads to the point where sections will break off. And you get that one last thaw, and all of a sudden, boom, it's pothole city. And look, we could probably spend the rest of this podcast talking about each vehicle that has severely been damaged.
Right.
And there've been a couple of funny ones, but we'll get into that in a moment. But it just literally happened 2 weeks ago. Not to me, because now that I'm retired, I don't drive when things are bad.
Right.
So, but I have witnessed enough people on the side of the road. Recently, I was at the tire store getting tires for my daughter, not because anything was damaged. It was just she was due. And they were lined up out to the street with people limping in with busted wheels. And I'm not talking about sports cars. I'm talking about Silverado pickups, Ram pickups, a
something
good
with
cross
a
section.
serious sidewall on it.
Yeah. So tire stores love it,
Right.
because a lot of plus business for them, but at the same time, they're dealing with a lot of distressed people, which I get. But it's pretty tough, Cory. And I, for a number of years here, had a Mini Cooper Clubman
Okay.
that seemed to take the biggest beating of all these. And I bought it at the beginning of 2017. But within a year, I went through 2 wheels, 3 tires, 2 windshields, because all that broken pavement sometimes gets picked up by a truck tire and flung backwards.
Oh man, how many times have you had that happen to you?
Well, that was 2 windshields like that, but I've had other nice little star patterns on other vehicles, but that one seemed to be particularly plagued with this stuff. And I'm here to tell you, Mini puts run flat tires on their vehicles, which is kind of a nifty thought, but when the carcass is split in half, there's no amount of run flat structure that's going to keep that vehicle rolling down the road. And that's, it's tough. I mean, it is really tough.
So you find yourself dodging potholes like we would dodge critters on the road down here.
It's our version of distracted driving.
Yeah. Oh my
because
goodness.
you are literally looking 10 feet ahead of your car to avoid running into one of these things. And it makes it tough to have a fun car with a short sidewall tire.
Right.
And yes, winter tires and wheels would be probably the smart thing to do, but I like to live on the edge a little bit. But you can't see it. You can't see it, but I've got a spare wheel on display over here in one corner. I've got another one on a shelf over here. And I've got a stack of tires and wheels behind me, which you probably can't see. But I've learned to have a spare of whatever, because I found a gentleman nearby who has a wheel repair shop that does a great job straightening alloy wheels. And so you just have one handy at all times. If it gets damaged, he'll straighten it out for you. I don't know what his process is. He doesn't really want to talk about it. He just says, give me $95, come back tomorrow. So
that is a good resource to have, it sounds like, from all of your experience. So that's interesting that it is standard practice for you to get a fifth matching wheel to all of your vehicles. That's like something you just know to do now.
Yeah, it's not like I plan it out, but usually once you damage the first one, then you're buying probably a used wheel.
Right.
And then the one that's coming off the vehicle, you go get it straightened out. So now, sometimes I roll the dice. It's like, I'm not going to buy the extra wheel this time.
So that leads in a little perfectly to something you and I have talked about offline, and your desire for your potential next vehicle. I won't spoil what it is, but you're really leaning in heavy on the steely aspect of it. So it makes a little more sense now talking to you, because steelies, in theory, they're, because of what we're about to talk about, are becoming more popular once again. So manufacturers are going to realize it and start marking them up. But traditionally, they are what is hiding behind the plastic hubcap. It's not really a hubcap anymore, but plastic wheel cover. You get a steely. I was recently in Chicago for the auto show. Nissan unveiled 3 concept Frontiers, and one of them was running on white steelies that they mentioned. That steely was literally the spare wheel that comes on every Frontier painted white. So it's proof that, okay, it's cheap wheel that we put on everything, but if I guarantee if they end up making that version of the concept, it's going to be a nice little markup, even though it's a cheaper wheel that they've just painted white.
Well, think about it, though, and I was going to check that out because I caught that as well. If you've got a Frontier, what's going to stop you to go to the Nissan dealer or the aftermarket that's providing those wheels, those spare wheels? Get a set yourself, paint them any color you want, get a set of tires, and create your own package. Which, why wait for Nissan?
Exactly. I mean,
create your own package.
They gave it away. Here's your discount way into the door, and you can do it.
Oh, trust me, I logged that one away.
Yes. So yes, I get now why you were so interested in Steelies and that option on your next vehicle, knowing that you're always buying that extra one for insurance purposes. Very
Yeah.
sneaky, Bill. Sneaky.
Yeah. It's no fun, and it's a terrible thing to go through if you've never experienced pothole damage. Usually it happens in the middle of the night. You're coming back from somewhere. Uh, you know, my worst experience, I was an hour away from home, 11
Mhm.
o'clock at night. It was raining, and boom, you know, here we go. Luckily, Minnie had phenomenal roadside
Yeah.
assistance, and the tow driver actually drove me to the Mini dealership, Mini retailer, when I dropped off the car in the middle of the night. So
Nice.
he was a nice guy. And that
No,
was an hour drive for him. So,
no blue OnStar button in that situation. Interesting. You had
well, you
already,
didn't.
yeah, you had already
Don't go
ventured
there.
away. You had
Don't go there.
straight away, Bill. Now, yeah. So, we do experience potholes here for similar reasons, just nowhere near at the rate that you do. In fact, if my computer screen weren't in front of me right now, I could see the erosion that is literally in front of my house. That gets worse every cold snap that
Mm,
we get, that I've reported to the city, but because I'm not on a high traffic road, it's on their back burner. They're way back burner. So yeah, we experience it, but our issue around here when it comes to roads are the perpetual repair expansion projects in the DFW Metroplex anywhere,
yeah.
or I
Yeah.
35 going through Austin. And then you and I joked before I hit the record button. Just so Texas is notoriously funding their roads through fuel taxes, which
Right.
it has come under scrutiny with the increase of EVs.
Right.
I'm not quite sure what our neighbors to the east of us do, but I created a meme 2 years ago and shared it out. And I probably share it out again to promote this episode. But you know exactly when you cross the state line headed east, because you go from smooth, nice, comfortable roads, maybe textured, so a little bit loud, but helps when it rains around here, into potholes and repair patches and just not great roads. And yeah, so be on the lookout on our Facebook page for that meme. I'm not going to spoil it, but it's a pretty good one.
Yeah. And it's tough. And I guess I'm somewhat heartened that you in Texas, with that nice weather, do have issues as well. But it's tough with, I think heavier trucks
Mm-hmm.
don't do these roads much good. Um, it'll be interesting to see as we get into um, changes with people working from home more.
Right,
Is that going to give some relief to the road systems?
right,
Because here in Southeast Michigan, the morning commute, bumper to bumper, all the way to Detroit. That's,
right.
for me, that was a 25-mile run every day. And so imagine what every one of those road miles is like.
Yep, yep. So you touched on something earlier that again, enlighten me, because different worlds. Uh, the joke, long withstanding, that I see every winter is when even threatens snow here, Texas shuts down, especially after 2021. Shut it down. We're done here. Meanwhile, y'all up there in Michigan can have feet of snow, and the boss will be calling in, when you getting here, kind of thing. So, what kind of prep do you do, not only for pothole season with buying that fifth wheel for a constant rotation to the repair shop, but what do you do personally or generally to prep for winter weather, and what's it like coming back out of it as we head into spring and summer?
Yeah, I mean, for years there was no forgiveness if there was a snowy day. I mean, there was a snowy road. We got a couple of feet last night. The plows are out usually on the
Right.
main roads, but your bosses would say, "Well, you're going to need to leave a little bit earlier
Yeah.
to get here." We got a lot kinder in my later years, and when things got bad, we would tell people, "Hey, look, it's going to be really we're going to get a big snow tomorrow. Why don't you make sure your computer's home with you,
Right.
and why don't you just work from home tomorrow?
Right.
Which was a much kinder thing to do. I mean, you think about the suffering we put people through to just because of snow, and the stress, the damage to your car,
Right.
the potential harm to yourself as somebody may ram you. It's
Right.
just not pretty.
Yeah. So I bring up 2021 in Texas, which was just totally unfair because we were already working from home. I was
Yeah.
still working in my corporate job. So, like, I was in the process of converting this studio. I had a nice place to work. I actually had windows opposed to my cubicle at the office, so I could see all the snow out there, but it just wasn't the same being home with my computer, expected to just continue on like I had for practically the entire year prior. Whereas if that had happened any other preceding year, it would have been like, oh, I forgot my computer at work. Or I'm sure they would have issued that exact same warning. Hey, bad weather's coming. Be sure and take your computers home. And there would have been no excuse. But before telecommuting and all this happened, I remember in college, we had a pretty good snowstorm that shut college down for a few days. And I had a 2007 Silverado, but it was rear wheel drive, not 4-wheel drive, and had the road going 20s on it. And I remember borrowing my friend's Nissan Titan 4x4 with big mud terrain tires on it just to drive. I was at his apartment when the snow started falling, so I stayed there with him. I hung out there all the time anyway, and drove his truck home just to, say hi to my parents and stuff, and then went back and basically waited for the snow to melt before I ever drove my truck again. But it's totally different mindset down here because I know me. I could handle it. I know all the things you're supposed to do, turn into the skid, watch for ice. The ice is the real tricky part, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, it's everyone else on the road. We can't even drive when it gets wet around here, much less when something white is on the road. Heaven forbid.
Yeah, I seem to have that habit of wrecking a lot of tires and wheels in the winter, even when it's not pothole season. So you'll appreciate this. So this had to be in mid 70s. Didn't have my license yet, but my dad, who we've talked about
Mm-hmm.
before, engineer at GM, had a 4-wheel drive Suburban home. He goes, I'm going to teach you how to drive in the snow.
Nice.
So we went to the parking lot at my high school. So I knew it pretty well. And we had a really good snow, and it was not a soul had driven through it. So it was, we're going to go 4-wheel drive. You're going to learn how to drive in this. I'm like, yes. So I'm going, I'm getting a little cocky as I'm going through, right? And all of a sudden, I caught the corner of, it must have been a concrete wall, and it just tore the sidewall of the tire. And Dad's like, well, now we're going to teach you the second thing, how to change a tire in deep snow.
Nice. Yeah, it's very interesting just how accustomed, and it's a way of life for y'all. So y'all prep for it. Y'all know it's coming.
Right.
And you deal with it. Meanwhile, I see the jokes. Y'all joke about us, with a flurry, and all of a sudden there's a pile up on I-20 or whatever the case may be. And it's just because it's so foreign to us. I know, looking through my memories online, we get about every 3 years, we get a decent snow. We can get a dusting in between, but here lately it's been clockwork that every 3 years we get a decent amount that is worthy of shutting us down. And again, to keep bringing up 2021, every time we saw snow in the forecast this year, we're like, please no, please no, please no.
Yeah, I think as a society, we're probably more forgiving when people are, concerned about driving and that stuff. And I've noticed the school systems will close down the night before the snow.
Nice.
Used to be, we as kids, you'd get up and it's like, you got a lot of snow. Are they going to close the schools? And you had the radio on to listen for that. And like, just as you're getting ready to leave for school, schools will be closed today. I'm like, yeah, today they're calling it the night before.
Yeah. Okay. Kids have it so good nowadays because
They do. You know, I had to walk. I had to walk 3 miles uphill both
both
ways
ways.
to
Yes.
school.
Yes. So we always had to, you mentioned the radio. We watched the news in the morning and they'd had the ticker across the bottom like you're looking at stocks and you're waiting for your
Right.
school district to show up on it. And then now you're getting Facebook messages the night before. Meanwhile,
Right.
we are practically ready for school when we finally see Tyler ISD is shut down, and then we're like, okay, well, I guess I'm going back to sleep. Although you've ruined the mass benefit was, sleeping
Sleeping in.
in,
Yeah.
which my dad, if he's listening, knows that I was not particularly the best, especially in my high school years, about getting up. I was a bear in the morning, and no, it was never pretty. So any opportunity I would have gotten to intentionally sleep in a little bit more was very well welcomed for everyone in the household.
Right. Right.
So, okay, you buy an extra wheel.
Yes.
Snow tires, is that like standard practice? Chains, how often do you put chains on? I know we're coming out of snow season, so we're not really getting into tips, but if someone's planning on moving this spring or summer, what are some differences up there in the Great White North?
Yeah. And you're going to see this on a lot of the review channels that deal in the northern climates. This is advice I would give anybody that I should actually give to myself. Get winter tires and wheels.
Right.
Pull them off when the weather gets above 40 because I guess they're just not as good. I've never done it, but I either had a company car that was
Mhm.
4-wheel drive,
Mhm.
and let's face it, company cars go through anything.
Right. It's like a rental car.
Uh,
As
yeah, I
long
mean,
as you turn it back in, if they find it.
I kept them clean,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, but I would absolutely do that. Now this year, in November, I bought a Subaru Outback 'cause I wanted
Mm-hmm.
something for the utility and in a good all-wheel drive system, and immediately put all-terrain tires.
Mm-hmm.
These are actually it's all weather rated, so I wanted to give those a try. And so I've got the factory wheels and tires sitting in a stack behind me.
Okay.
So now I've kind of created my own winter package. I really did it more for the looks
Right.
because I was too cheap to buy the wilderness package, so I'm creating my own.
Yes. Yes. Which we've sampled here at GT Garage Talk, and
I know.
we're smitten. To the point where somebody commented on one of my Bronco videos and they kind of expressed, something for the family around this price point. And just the conversation and the few points of information I had, I was like, you might want to look at the Outback Wilderness. Like, we truly were surprised by that vehicle, and we had it out next to a 4Runner TRD Pro. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been, mine is not that, mine's
Right.
the mid-level premium. It doesn't have the turbo, it doesn't have the gearing, but I have a tire that's very similar to what's on it, same size.
Mm-hmm.
And about a month ago, I had to go up about 100 miles away early in the morning, and we were getting one of those terrible snowstorms then. I mean, I couldn't even see the lines on the road. The
Yeah, I think you
eyesight
shared some
system couldn't
pictures.
see it. What?
I think you had shared some pictures, and I was like, what is Bill doing out in that? Stay home, man.
Right.
Stay home.
But that thing was a champ.
Yeah.
So whether it was the tires, which I'm assuming a lot of it was, or that phenomenal all-wheel drive system they have, it was a champ. I felt so secure. So I would dare say, if you live in a northern climate and don't have winter tires, get them. Because I'm going to say that's my first real exposure to doing it, and I think it was worthwhile.
Yeah. So it kind of leads me into, you and I were joking a little bit before hitting record about fandoms and brand loyalty. You were in the GM bubble for a while, then you kind of went through a mini phase. Are you drinking the Subaru Love Kool-Aid now that you've experienced this Outback?
I'm very impressed with the vehicle. It was the first time I, had any experience with it. I really chose it because it, from a spec sheet standpoint,
Right.
it fulfilled my needs. I needed something with utility, um, and then I'll get my fun car after this. But I was really pleased with the dealer experience or the retailer experience. It really reminded me a lot of Saturn,
Hmm.
which, I spent 11 years at Saturn. I mean, I think they have the Saturn's ad agency because they just the way that the tone of their ads, it feels that way. They were the only brand locally that wasn't marking up vehicles.
Right.
I mean, Honda CRV, 5 grand over sticker. Um,
Yeah.
I suppose I could have got a GM vehicle on the discount, but yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
I've checked that box. I love them. They're
Right.
great vehicles. And
They've
if I was buying a pickup truck, I would have to get a GM pickup just because I think that's their strength.
I do too. We recently tested a 2500 Sierra, and I was reminded why I like GM trucks so much while driving that, and why I would still, in the as of today, as of this recording, would still probably lean towards Ram, but the 1500s are coming out with that new interior, which is like
Yeah,
the last Achilles heel. And I'm like, So I'm very much anticipating testing one of those. We've got one coming to a dealer that's been very friendly to us. It's got the
good.
3-liter diesel. I'm very tempted, but we are not in the market. So very, very
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah,
I'm trying not to get caught in a brand rut any longer because there's a lot I want to try out. There's I'm a car guy
right,
through and through, and I felt when I worked for GM all those years, that's they were paying my wage. I should
right.
patronize that. They're still great vehicles, but hey, I'm like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah,
Yeah, let me have some.
getting lost in the candy store. There's so much out there. And
Exactly.
I
Thanks to good guys like you who
well,
review a lot of
well,
things,
thank you.
I'm able to sample the wares.
Right. I mentioned it a little in last week's episode talking with Nathan. I do have my brand biases. I am having my eyes opened by getting to jump in uh, vehicles from different manufacturers and being at events where it's one right after another, right after another. So you can immediately remember, okay, the competition felt like this or drove like this. And we have gotten to a point where I cannot tell you a car that I have been in, a brand new car that I've been in that I would absolutely just write off. There are some that I would say,
Mm,
if you need it for this, you probably wouldn't want this one because terrible backseat or,
yeah.
you know, fuel economy isn't quite right or, whatever. But my goodness, especially after getting in like 20-year-old vehicles and remembering what build quality used to be,
Right.
I'm blown away even since my '07 Silverado, how far General Motors has come, because
Oh yeah.
those Silverados were highly lauded for being a huge step forward in the interior, and they've come even further now. And the 22 is like the pinnacle of GM truck interior. I've seen a few at shows, have not gotten to live with one for any length of time, but very much looking forward to that. But yeah, like vehicle quality has gone up immensely, but so has the price point,
Oh
and
yeah.
we're
Yeah.
paying for it.
Yeah. And quality is one thing, but it's reliability that is important for a lot of us
Hmm.
who you may want to keep them more than a couple of years.
Right.
And so that's not where everyone is still on par. I mean, as it comes out of the plant, paint quality is good, panel
Hmm.
gaps are good, no squeaks or rattles. But how is it after 2 years or 3 years? And that's very telling about what is this really a good vehicle? Does it still is it still rattle free, which just drives me crazy if it isn't. I
Right.
mean, I've got my rattle kit ready for anything.
So my 13 model is she's got her rattles, her creaks, her blemishes. Like I said, build quality, even from my last purchase, has come a long way. It's truly amazing to
Are
see.
you talking about the cruise?
Maybe, yeah.
Because I remember we had one.
Mm-hmm.
and 11, and I had a couple of company cars, and I was impressed that it was probably the most solid vehicle at the time.
Right.
Had probably the highest structural rigidity of any other vehicle I had driven, and I was really impressed with how, especially with our roads here, it didn't. I mean, it just glided over these terrible roads.
I will say it has held up better than any of my previous GM products have. The interior was steps above. They had I have cloth seats on mine, so I had cloth on the dash and stuff like that to break up the materials in there. But again, even since that one, the build quality has come up a long way,
Yeah.
and we really have the recession to thank for American cars, all brands getting immensely better because, we keep harping on GM because you worked for them and I loved them for so long. But I've gotten in old Ford products and I'm like, oh, that's not great. Or, I've gotten in old Dodge and Chrysler products and I'm like, yeah, this is an old American vehicle. But when the recession hit and the brands came under great scrutiny, kind of cleaned house with the people who are making those decisions that led to that kind of quality, and things started changing drastically and they had to compete on a global level because Toyota especially was eating everybody's lunch. So I'm sure you lived that, right?
Oh, very much so. And it was a killer. And we would start out saying, "Oh, this vehicle will be very competitive in the class," and the CEO would come back and say, "Excuse me, that's not what we're after.
Right.
We don't want to be competitive. We want to be the class leader, which is the way you should be thinking." So,
Right.
In my later years at GM, I know that for a fact GM was spending a ton of effort
Mm-hmm.
on making sure that that was right, and I'm seeing it in the product.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a great job. I'm a little concerned about what segments they're not in. And
Right.
this, we've had this conversation before about you know Ford with the Maverick or the Bronco Sport having something more affordable
Right.
or something that fulfills an old brand promise. But we're not going to go there
Oh,
because
oh,
that's been
but we could, because new information has come to light since you and I last spoke.
what is
And,
that?
Chevy's teasing a little something called the Blazer EVSS,
Ah,
alphabet soup. And, those letters mean something. We're finding out a little bit more. So, EV, obviously, electric vehicle, SS, super sport. So, this is the first electric vehicle from the General that has sporty aspirations built into it. Interesting, though, that they are tying it to that Blazer nameplate. So you and
yeah.
I, the last time we spoke, you had made some predictions. I was hoping you were right with every fiber of my being. And when the news broke, you were the first person I thought of. I shot you the little clip on Instagram. I was like, well,
Yeah. So for those who might have missed that episode, it was right after the announcement of the electric Silverado,
correct.
and they showed a drawing or two of the Equinox EV,
Mm-hmm.
which at the time I thought, hey, this styling is closer to the current Blazer than
Right.
the current Equinox. So my mind started racing. I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is going to fulfill the current Blazer's styling niche.
Right.
And then they said, and there'll be a new EV Blazer. And I thought, here it is. We're finally going to get a real Blazer, right?
Right.
I'm thinking off-road capable, boxy. Maybe we'll get a two-door out of this thing,
Mm.
and it'll be electric. They're going to leapfrog Ford's Bronco, come back with a retro-styled Blazer that's now EV. Best of all worlds. Let's call it the E5 Blazer. And we see this little teaser ad that would suggest it's going to be anything but that.
Right. So, again, we've been teased with images solely of the Equinox EV, which looks, I think, fantastic.
I agree with that. Yep.
$30,000 price point. Again, slam dunk for what it is. Haven't been told anything about range. Haven't been told anything about battery or anything like that. But price point seems right. Styling is on point. And yes, we were teased with just the name Blazer EV. We again went dreaming, wishing, hoping, praying, and now we are being teased with the fact that they've tied Super Sport to it, which dashes all hopes of an off-road variant of that nameplate. Doesn't mean they can't still do something fun. We've seen the Hummer EV and what it can do. GM would be foolish to not offer something in the Chevy lineup that has those aspirations. I would think, they're missing the mark. Ford's playing in the space.
Yeah.
Stellantis is playing in the space. Let's get something off-roady that's not a pickup out there in the world. But just so many hopes dashed, right?
Well, maybe there is still hope. We still have GMC. Maybe there's a Jimmy coming.
Yes, I would love.
But then
love.
so is Christmas, Cory. So
Yeah. So I don't know. There's just so much hope in the air that they will get something right. And you know what? Names at the end of the day are just that. They're just names. What is the product like? You and I talked about the Blazer product is good, just has the wrong name. Some would say the Maverick product is good and has the wrong name, although that one is less controversial in that aspect. What is in a name? That's up
everything.
to right.
I'm sorry, I'm a branding guy, and the name is everything.
Right.
But the vehicle has to live up to that name or that brand promise, and that's why I think Ford nailed it with Maverick. You could argue that no, that belongs on a car, but they put it on a vehicle, and we've had this conversation.
Right.
But they put it on a vehicle that is replacing a car,
right?
But with a whole lot more cool added to it than the original Maverick ever did. So now I'm gonna challenge you on that. Everything's in a name.
Yes.
But don't get me going.
And I would agree with you as well. I'm a marketing background. My wife's in marketing. Like, yes, I totally get that. And again, it doesn't completely close the door that the product won't be delivered just with a lesser name. But yes, it is a major letdown and an unfortunate consequence, side effect.
Yes.
Anyway.
What a couple of car guys to do, right?
Yes. Since we've last spoken, I've driven something that you've expressed interest in that I've got my list of upcoming videos over here, and I wanted to talk a little bit with you about, and that is the Ford Thunderbird. So in our last conversation, you and I were talking names and revival of names, and very much what we're just lamenting with the Blazer. And first and foremost, you were employed by GM when the T-Bird was revived in its most true to classic form. It's been through, gosh, that poor nameplate has been through a lot.
It has.
Big clunky 4 doors, ugly 2 doors, but the original T-Bird was built in the same vein as the original Corvette and was meant to go up against it. So when Ford brought back in the mid-2000s the Thunderbird name, everybody was naturally comparing it to the Corvette, which it wasn't. No. It was more true to its roots. So that's one where it's interesting. Here you bring back a very classic name with very classic styling, which I would say they more or less nailed. But because its competition of the time had evolved, everybody was comparing it to its competition, not its original intention. I don't know. That one was a very interesting vehicle to me.
And I don't know enough about it. I think when we were on the recording of that one session, I looked it up quickly, and I think that Thunderbird has some Jag componentry, doesn't it? Like it had a Jag V8.
It had a Jag V8 built on the Lincoln LS rear-wheel drive sedan platform, which was well loved by journalists of the era. Everybody was saying, okay, Lincoln's showing some signs of life here
Yeah.
in a time where they really needed it. And so, competent chassis, good powertrain, not great, good, and classic styling. It should have been a slam dunk, and it made it around for a handful of years. I
Yeah.
think mostly because of the stigma that it didn't live up to the Corvette competitor when that wasn't their intent. That wasn't their. I don't know. Very interesting turn of
And
events.
yeah, and I don't really remember how they positioned it when it came back out. I just don't remember there being a lot of fanfare around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I feel they probably thought it was like the Field of Dreams, build it and they'll come
Yeah.
and whatnot. Keep in mind too, in early 2000s was kind of a dark time for our Detroit automakers, and
Mm-hmm.
they were bleeding money, development dollars weren't there. The fact that anybody got anything interesting out, whether it was the Ford Thunderbird or the Chevy SSR,
Mm-hmm.
I mean those are vehicles that probably should never have been made because they didn't make financial sense, but they had to have some halos and
Mm-hmm.
to show the world that we're not just boring Malibus and Tauruses. And
Right. So it's
um
interesting that you bring up the SSR because in my video review, which you haven't seen yet, but is probably out as of this recording going out, um, that's exactly the parallel I drew because, again, it was a fun, topless cruiser, two-seater that did not make a lot of sporting sense because the SSR, while not based on a sports sedan rear-wheel drive platform, was based on a body-on-frame SUV
Trailblazer, yeah.
chassis. Yeah, it it was a looker. It really was. And I got a chance to get behind the wheel of one. As of this recording, have not filmed that review, but it is still available to me. So we'll see if I actually get to churn out that video review on the channel. But man, there's something special about a beautiful day, sun out, top down in either of those vehicles, the T-Bird or the SSR. And those that was the perfect scenario for those two vehicles. And the only way on which to sell those two vehicles was beautiful weather, top down, cruise.
As you're saying this, and let's circle back to our differences in climate
Mm-hmm.
and road conditions. We have probably 4 good months a year that a convertible like that could be enjoyed up here. And I'm
Right.
just talking about from, do I need to run the heater when the top's down? Or,
The SSR did
or
have heated seats, so yeah.
I know that helps. Yeah, that certainly helps. But yeah, that's why we have so many of us will have that as a fun car.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, you maybe gave me an idea about that T-Bird. 2003 T-Bird, pretty affordable,
Mm-hmm.
fun winter, summer car, whatever. Okay. This is why we have classic car storage facilities here in Michigan,
Yes.
where
Yeah.
people can stash their stuff and
For the
you know,
saltier months where,
yeah,
yeah.
you go visit it. You pat it while it's in storage, and
Yeah. It's that, hmm, that T-Bird. I remember when it came out, I was in high school thinking, okay, cool styling. And again, I wasn't driving them. I was in high school. So I was spec sheet jockey thinking, okay, yeah, it's not a Corvette. So I was in the camp that was like, it'll never live and survive. Now I'm older. Now I've sampled many different products. It would be an interesting car, Bill. I'm not going to lie. If you can find one, I go check one out. It was
so
fun.
so so let's. I don't know how much time you want to spend here,
Yep.
but maybe a couple minutes. That since you have a broader spectrum of vehicle likes than I do, because
Mm-hmm.
all those years
Mm-hmm.
GM only.
Right. Right.
So I've got my utility vehicle now, which is
Mm-hmm.
the Outback, which
Mm-hmm.
is doing all the things it needs to do. Gets me to Lowe's or Home Depot. I
Right.
get through the snow, but I need to get, and I want to get the need part is me. The
Right,
want
right,
would be
right,
from my
right.
wife's perspective. A 2-seat convertible rear drive vehicle
Mm-hmm.
for my
Mm-hmm.
summer fun. So what are my options? It could be the Thunderbird. I could do Saturn Sky, Pontiac
Oh,
Solstice, maybe.
oh, yeah. Little Miata, maybe.
I
The
can't. I'm 6'4". I can't fit in a
yeah,
Miata.
yeah. The one Achilles heel to an otherwise perfect fun car is, yeah. I get you on that one. That would probably rule out BRZ or GR86 if you wanted to buy something brand new. Though totally a fun car. Oh my goodness.
You know what? But then, yeah, when my Subaru dealer gets one in,
Yeah.
I've told him to give me a call just so I can fit it.
Right.
See, because I
So
know what you told me. You had
I had a
video of a
six
person
four
my
friend,
height.
yeah, that
Yeah, so
got in one. It's a little snug. It's got a back seat that you can snug up next to, and that helps you
yeah,
recline a little bit more. So it may be worth a look because we drove the Toyota version of it, the GR86 with the 6-speed manual, $30K asking price.
yeah,
More fun than that price in today's market has any right to be.
correct. No,
And
I've watched that, and
oh,
I'm seeing a couple of channels who are buying them for their long-term testers.
uh,
I saw the Savage Geese guys.
yeah, yeah,
Jack on there just bought one. I just saw a video of that.
yeah.
The Everyday Driver guys just bought one. So
Yeah, if I were to that point for GT Garage Talk, whew, I would have been hard pressed not to give the keys back because ours
okay,
was a dealer loan. I am hoping, praying. We've got good connections with Toyota. I mean, I'm practically in the HQ's backyard. I want one for a week-long tester. I want to do a child seat test in the back. I want to
oh,
see what Holly
poor
thinks of
Tucker,
it.
poor Tucker. So stay on target here, Corey.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what would you think would be 2010 or older? Let's say
Mhm.
something 2000 to 2010 rear drives. Doesn't have to be convertible. That is not Corvette or Camaro because I've done that.
Right. So yes, sampling the T-Bird, uh, just the fun retro aspect of it was it puts a smile on your face.
Okay.
And the one I had that hardtop in place. Couldn't remove it for the video that I had, but plus it was kind of cold the day we were shooting anyway. It just yes, there is no way you could drive that on a beautiful day with the top off and not have a smile. It is a perfect cruiser of a vehicle. Chevy SSR also too. I did have that on a rather nice day with the top down for oh so short of time
Yeah.
before I had to take it back, and I see the appeal. It's not fun racy or anything like that. It's something that you would want to take. The way I position that one, it is the perfect road trip mobile because
Okay.
you do not compromise on trunk space at all.
No,
Like
it's got the
at
biggest
all.
trunk of any sports car.
Yeah. So like that is the perfect highway cruiser long trip convertible, like bar none. I can think of no other. I drove an XLR of the era, which was so disappointing to me because Corvette bones without the Corvette's heart, and it had the North Star V8 in it, and it just was not the same. Oof.
I have a
Mm.
friend who has a BMW Z4 that I did some brake work on, and I had a chance to test drive it around the block, and that was not a bad vehicle. Some people say the styling's a little bit
Yeah.
subjective.
So I have yet to, but maybe we'll get a chance to get behind the wheel of the Z3, which preceded it.
Yeah,
And that was universally praised as a great car. But again, for you, I think height might be an issue on that one.
yeah, that's
A
what I've
little
heard.
tight. Porsche Cayman, or Porsche, depending on how you align on that matter. The Boxster variant,
Yeah,
same chassis. So if you want to go convertible, go Boxster. If you want to go coupe, go Cayman. That was a compelling vehicle. The one I had a rowdy, loud exhaust and a custom wrap, but first time behind the wheel of anything from the automaker, but see the appeal of the brand for sure.
Okay.
You could probably, I don't know exactly what budget you're shopping, but go classic 911. You know, there are those.
That won't work.
Yeah.
Okay, so budget, I should have told you, is under 20
Okay.
grand. So
Yeah.
I
No.
just,
No.
and I don't,
Forget the last two.
My fear with the Porsche is that IMS bearing, because the one that I could probably afford is going to need that. And that's a big job.
Right. So, yeah. Saturn Sky, I could definitely see. You know, you and I have previously talked about that one. I'm sure you've experienced that one to some extent at this point in your life.
Yeah, I had one of the very first ones for 3 months.
Okay.
So in winter.
Yeah. Well,
winter.
So you didn't get to sample it at its best. So yeah, I don't know. If you truly want something that I have driven that put a smile on my face, I'm gonna say T-Bird. Definitely worth looking into.
Okay.
I know with a sub 20 grand price point, you're gonna be breaking that a little bit. But
in today's market, especially
right.
If this was 2 years ago.
Right.
There'd be so many options available, but yeah, things are crazy, and that's why I'm kind of holding out a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I'm a car guy, and I need to have a car that's fun.
And it really all comes down to intended mission and intended purpose. So you want to have a little bit of fun in the summer with a convertible. You know,
I want to have a tool for the job, right? I mean,
right. You know,
I want a vehicle for every season.
Yes. And who doesn't, right? I want several.
I know.
I want one for every weather, every different. Here's my rainy day. Here's my rainy day family. Here's my sunny day. Here's my sunny day family. Here's because a Jeep or a Bronco fulfills many. Like it could be a family vehicle, it's an off-road vehicle, it's a convertible. It's like it's hard to pass the appeal of that. So find you an old Wrangler, and the problem there is they hold their value, and
they do.
You're gonna be paying for it. So that leads me to my question of the week for my listeners: is help Bill find something sub 20 grand, maybe a convertible. 2-seater, fun summer car in that price point. Let me know. Comment it. If you follow us on Facebook, comment on the post I share for this episode on Facebook. Find us on whatever social media we're at. I'll be sure to share with Bill. You can reach out to him directly. He is the Vehicle Nanny on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, right? You on the Twitter? I'm
limited.
Yeah, I'm barely there as well, so I can't remember who all I follow there. So where can people reach out to you to give you driving advice?
I would tell you the best way is to go to vehiclenanny.com, and you can leave a comment in one of the section or comment in one of the comment sections, or all of my social media links are at the top of the page. And I'm very active. Matter of fact, doesn't matter what time, day or night. Right. I'll answer your questions.
Well, Bill, thank you so much for joining me. I know we wanted and started off talking about pothole season and all the fun that comes to you up there in the north this time of year. And we've kind of meandered everywhere else along the way, but it is always a joy to get to talk to you.
Thanks, Cory. Likewise. But I think we stayed true to theme because we're talking about vehicles that you would probably only drive when the roads and the weather are good. So
this is true.
I'll challenge you on that. I think you stayed true to the theme.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. And we'll continue the conversation, maybe a little off topic, a little for our Patreon members who support us there. So
terrific.
Thank you. Oh, wow. So, yes, we literally talked for hours, and you just got a portion of that here on the podcast. We anytime Bill and I get together, we could talk about anything and everything under the sun related to cars. And there was so much good content that before I even hit the record button that we had covered. But I am incredibly grateful for his friendship, his willingness to jump on an episode and talk about whatever with me. And yes, just really fun chatting with him, getting to learn a little bit about what spring brings to the northern climates. Just interesting and enlightening to this born and raised Texan down here. I do encourage you to sound off. Let him know, let me know. A good sub $20,000 or near $20,000 fun summer car, as he is on the lookout for something along those lines. You can let us know, gtgaragetalk.com or himvehiclenanny.com. All of our social medias are very easy to find on both of our websites. But as always, we thank you for listening each and every week, coming back for more. We've got a fun episode next week. Be sure to stay tuned for that. But until next time, bye.